So Donald Trump's immigration plan has gotten a huge amount of attention, obviously, all over the campaign trail. So let's take a closer look one more time at the highlights and break it down. It calls for building a wall along the southern border, which you've heard him talk about quite a bit, and making Mexico pay for it. As he says, he also wants to end birthright citizenship for the children of illegal immigrants. The plan also involves deporting every illegal immigrant in the United States over time, as well as preventing documented workers from overstaying their visas. Trump would stop funding sanctuary cities, those places which ignore the federal law, and enact a nationwide E-Verify program, which the Senate passed years ago. Ruben Navarrette is a syndicated columnist, also a Daily Beast columnist and author. Ruben, welcome. Very good to have you here this morning. You know, that a lot of the elements in that plan are somewhat non-controversial, and they are things that are basically already on the books, I think, that a lot of people would agree with. But you believe that Donald Trump has stepped outside of what's reasonable on this. How so?
Martha, thanks for having me again. Absolutely. He has stepped out of what's reasonable. It's a mixture of things that are really common sense, practical things that might happen, could happen, and other things that will never happen. The idea, for instance, of finding out all the remittances that go back. How do you begin to find the billions of dollars that go back into Mexico individually? How do you confiscate that? The idea of revoking or rewriting the 14th Amendment to change birthright citizenship. I believe that would be required in order to achieve what he wants to achieve. It gets deeper and deeper into the weeds after a while. He wants to tell companies how much they have to pay H-1B visa holders, limit the number of H-1B visa holders, and really dictate that U.S. employees get those jobs first. So this is big government with a capital B. I don't see a lot of this ever coming to fruition. Yeah,
you say that he should have written this policy himself?
Yes. Here's the weird part, Martha. I'm going to give you a headline that I think every other commentator's missed this week in talking about this. If you take a look at every single comment that Donald Trump has said on the stump in Iowa or New Hampshire, and you write it down, you pair it up next to this written policy, the two don't match. The two don't match. What's coming out of his mouth doesn't match what's on paper. Because he surrendered, he outsourced, in fact, if you want to use that word, the writing of this policy to Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama. It's been reported here on Fox that the senator from Alabama had a big hand in writing this policy. And if you don't want to understand immigration policy, Alabama's a really good place to not understand immigration policy because it's so far from the U.S.-Mexico border that Senator Sessions writes from a position of ignorance.
Yeah, well, and what's at odds? What has he contradicted himself in, specifically?
Well, I'm glad you asked. One important part is legal immigration. Donald Trump has said repeatedly a very reasonable position. I'm against illegal immigration, but I want to create a wall with a door in it so that people can come into the country legally. I want to, in fact, get rid of all the bad ones and bring back the good ones. This is what he says. But if you look at the policy, the written policy, there's no provision for bringing back the good ones. It's about keeping out everybody, legal or illegal, period. So there's a basic disagreement between Sessions and Trump over what to do about legal immigrants. Trump supports them, and Sessions doesn't.
You know, I want to play a soundbite from Jeb Bush on the anchor baby issue, which has been a very hot topic this week. Let's play that.
Do you regret using the term anchor babies yesterday on the radio?
No, I didn't.
Is that the one?
I don't regret it.
You don't regret it?
No. Do you have a better term?
I'm not. I'm asking you. A lot of folks find it offensive.
You give me a better term, and I'll use it. I'm serious.
Governor.
All right.
Don't yell at me behind my ear, though.
Don't yell at me behind my ear, though. Do you have a problem with that term, anchor babies?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this was a stupid comment from Jeb Bush. Jeb has really high numbers with Hispanics, but he definitely will take a hit for this comment. You know, this is not, there's no such thing as an anchor baby, first of all, Martha, and here's why. The idea of an anchor baby is somebody who is U.S. born and anchors their parent on U.S. soil so they can't be deported. Okay, great. In Barack Obama's America, more than 1,000 people a day are deported, illegal immigrants. Many of them are parents with U.S. born children. This anchor, so-called anchor, is made of crepe paper, of cotton candy. You pull it and it falls apart. Now, Jeb Bush should know that. He's a smart guy, good communicator. This was a stupid thing for him to say. And what really worries me is this idea of finding another phrase.
Do you not believe that people do? I mean, I've heard, you know, firsthand accounts from people who work in hospitals who talk about this as a reality. You know, people who literally come across the border and have the baby so that the baby will be born here. Now, I understand that as a desire because this is a great place to live. But is it a workable situation, and is it something that needs to be readdressed?
It's something that, well, let me just say, I think it's a minor instance in this case. There are 5,000 or 10,000 people sometimes in bulk coming across the border in our high peak areas. And that's not happening now, but it has happened in the past. And you're talking about a small number of people who might come across already pregnant to give birth in a hospital along the border. That very rarely happens. And we shouldn't certainly change the 14th Amendment to accommodate those small instances. But to my point about the anchor, it is fiction, a lie, perpetrated by members of the media and some conservative politicians, know-nothing politicians, that somehow says that you have an anchor here, when in fact we're deporting people with anchors every single day in America.
Well, we have 11 million people who are here illegally.
Because we have people who are hiring them, Martha. We ought to stop hiring these folks, and they'll go home.
All right. Ruben Navarrette, thank you very much, as always. Good to have you, sir.